Well, howdy y'all. It's wonderful weather out here, but I gotta warn you, it's windy. So, excuse me if my audio isn't the greatest, but I'll do my best to have the mic covered. Point of this video, guys, is traction bars. Something I needed to do a long time ago, and something I got done a month ago. So, yeah, I guess the video is about a month late. If I were to say that I'm being as transparent as possible with you guys and keeping y'all updated. Paul's keeping you a month behind. I know, that's a big no-no, but, you know, all jokes aside, practical reasons, that's what I want to talk about here. There's the bar. Let me show you how I mounted it. Guys, I'm going to show you a few things and jump inside the truck so we don't mess up this audio too much. Okay, so instead of bolting the thing, I had it welded in. And on the back, man, this sun glare really doesn't help. There you go. See on the back how it wraps around the axle and you just bolt it down, cinch it down? Well, I still have to go back there to show you guys. For you guys that are running airbags, man, this ain't gonna work for you unless you do what I did. Thanks to my buddy, okay? Thanks to my buddy, I was eating breakfast one day. I was going through Facebook. Yeah, sometimes I'm on Facebook. And he had these bars posted, and I reached out to him. I'm like, yo, I've been procrastinating on these bad boys forever. He's like, yeah, they came off of 3rd gen. They should work for your 4th. I'm like, okay, I'll grab them from you. So I grabbed them, came home, and guess what I walked into? My, man, how do I protect this mic so it's not too loud? My airbags, there's U-bolts that, shoot, man. The U-bolts wrap around the axle in the same position that I need to install the bracket for the ladder. So, as excited as I was to install these darn things, I couldn't because of the positioning. Now, if you can see what I did, I uninstalled the airbags. Well, actually, I had a shop. Uninstalled the airbags. Yes, I had another shop uninstall. I've heard good things about these guys, but figured I'd give them a whirl. My shop was really busy that time to be messing with stuff like this. They uninstalled the U-bolts. Pretty much undid the U-bolts, installed the bracket, came in and just welded on the bracket from the airbags onto the bracket of that. It's much beefier. I mean, it's not a question of is it going to survive or not. So, to my buddy, that if you're watching this, that's how I fixed the problem. I did tell him that I was going to sell them, and if he had any reason to want them back or had a need or anything, he said, no. He's like, but I'll buy them back from you since they don't fit. I'm like, no, that's not the point why I reached out to you. I'll just sell them. So that's the last note I finished on my conversation with my buddy. So, buddy, if you're watching, thank you. I went ahead and did a little bit of welding. I had a shop do a little bit of welding and got her done. Anyways, back to this video. Who needs these guys? Who needs these track bars? Why would one even want to install them? Well, here you go. I'll use my personal example. Hopefully this helps most of you guys, and y'all can relate. I guess while I'll be talking, I'll show you how messy my truck is. You guys saw how dirty it is. This is how dirty my truck is, guys, sometimes. Look at all this stuff. Look at all that. Oh, yeah. Okay, then. Now, hold on there. So, I was going downhill. My wife was driving my truck, and I was just following her in our car. And the bottom leaf of the leaf spring pack on this truck. Okay, so keep in mind, she's going down a hill, exhaust braking, and exhaust brakes coming in and out. And I'm on her quarter panel, simply. You know, I'm on the rear right side, watching the leaf springs do this. Okay, so the bottom leaf spring was moving about 3/4 of an inch, guys. Every time the exhaust brake kicked in, this thing would go whoop. You know, I'm like, what? If exhaust brake could move the bottom spring so much, what's going on under a load? So, half a year after that occasion, I ended up hooking up to something really heavy, something that I should have never hooked up to, meaning a tandem dually trailer. It was loaded with XYZ. It was really heavy. Upon acceleration, I'll hit the gas pedal a little too heavy. Like I rolled into a little too heavy. And I mean, this thing started bucking. I never expected, never experienced, just had no understanding of it. Once it happened, I understood what happened, guys. So, back to the leaf springs where I was showing. I almost feel like busting out my notepad here and start drawing for you guys, but So this truck is leveled. As you guys know, this truck is leveled. So for me to keep it level, I have to give it a little bit more air pressure to keep it level. So an average truck, let's say, let's talk weight, pin weight. So 2,000 pound pin weight on it, at 30 psi. On my truck, you're leveled, but on a regular truck that's not leveled, you're probably like 20. So that 10 psi is not the issue. What the issue is the height. So when you're putting load on your truck, it sags down, right? When you have a stock rake, so tip of my fingers being the front of the truck, and it's sitting like this, okay? I'm drastically showing you. And you're loading it, you see, you got all that to compensate for the straight, leveled ride. Where my truck, it sits straight, so, you know what I mean? You're going a little too far down and you're done. Well, it's not 100% true. I think I'm like the 1/2 inch to 3/4 rake. Like the back end's higher. Something like that. So because of my truck being leveled, for simple terms, leveled, isn't 100% correct, but you guys know what I'm trying to say here. I have to put more pressure in my rear airbags. Well, what does this really do? Guys, this is weird. I got to put you on pause. I got really hot for some reason. Either my brain's working too hard or I'm just swinging my hand too much. Hold on a sec. All right. I had to take off my sweater. Anyway, so as the more weight you put on the rear of my truck, the more pressure I have to put in the back of it. What's really happening is I'm not letting those leaf springs compress enough. So the more compressed the leaf springs are, because the leaf springs is the only thing that holds the rear axle from twisting, okay? So the heavier the load on the leaf springs, the more, I don't know if this is 100% correct term, but the more stable your axle is going to be, the more resistance there is to keep that axle from twisting. Why? Because those leaf springs are connected from, frame to frame and then axle in the middle. So when they're just chilling like this, dramatically showing you, there's not enough. So that's why on exhaust brake, my axle was doing this. The leaf spring was moving that much. So the axle was probably churning an eighth, if that. You guys know, when you got leverage. So my truck never got the full load, because I was trying, when I was hauling, keep in mind, I'm talking about that story where I was hauling a really heavy load. I had like 60 or 80 psi in my airbags, which I really never do. But once I hooked up, I was sitting like this, and you don't want to be driving down the road like that. So I put in 60 or 80 psi, and when I started taking off, I got that jarring, nut-ripping effect. I thought I was going to rip my bolts on my rear end and just grenade everything. I mean, for a split second, I thought I grenaded the U-joint. I mean, it was bad. So after taking off, I realized what happened. I deflated my airbags to 35, which I usually have, and I went back to this. So what happened is I put a lot of load on them leaves, and at that point I was able to move that load. I was able to put more power down to the driveline, which is the rear end of the, it's a differential, because keep in mind it's spinning to the right. So as something's spinning to the right, it's gonna twist. So you got a drive line coming in here, and then you got the axle here. So as you're spinning, you're pulling everything. You're binding these two objects. You truck guys know what I'm talking about here. So after that, I said, Polly Wally, you really got to install those track bars. And I've been procrastinating ever since. So by sharing that story with you guys and going into all this detail, for someone that doesn't understand what's happening, now you do. That axle shifts upon load. So the more load that driveline puts into the axle, the more it's going to bind, the more it's going to want to twist. That's where these bars come in handy. Because, man, I'm going to bust out my notepad. Hold on tight, guys. Alright, boys, don't judge me on my artistic skills. I think I always got F's in school for art class. But anyway, so here's what I'm trying to say here. The more power you put, see, that's the transmission, the transfer case carrier. Now, don't be making fun of me. That's your driveline, okay? The more power you're putting, this thing's twisting to the right. This driveline's twisting to the right. What do you think's going to happen to your axle? What do you think's going on right here in this X area? You are literally twisting this thing and turning this thing down. The diff is going to get turned down. So the more resistance, now I'm going to do a side view. So you got leaf springs, right? And then you have an axle here. So the more load you have on these bad boys, sorry guys, the more load you have on these bad boys, the more resistance is for this thing to rock. Well, all you do is right here on the axle, you have U-bolts, okay? So keep in mind, this is a leaf spring, this is the axle. I'll make it nice and big for you guys. Well, you got U-bolts that go like this, okay? Well, actually the other way around, they go like this. All you do is you grab a bar, you know, you got a platform here. So you got two U-bolts, right? Nuts. So you take this platform and put it onto the frame. You tie it onto the frame. In my case, you just had another set of clamping force. This is an average. This is an average setup right here. They grab by the U-bolts. Same idea with my setup, but it's a clamping force of its own. You guys saw that. Pretty much it's an axle. And then you got a two-piece deal that literally sit. Okay, you got an axle. And you got a two-piece bracket, okay? Literally sits like this. So this is your axle. All you do, I think there's like 3 bolts here. You tighten these bolts, and you tighten these bolts. This gets sandwiched, okay? So from the top, you don't have an issue, because on your leaf spring pack, you already got the movement covered. It's the turning force here. So, man, why is this thing not focusing for crap? So it's when you're braking, exhaust braking, or accelerating, this axle is twisted one way or another. Well, how the heck are you going to keep it under control if you got none of this holding it in place? You're not. So who needs it? Guys that have more power, guys that are running bigger wheels, because your rear end, I mean, you could get nitty gritty with this, but the more load you put on that rear end, the more stability it's going to need. Well, Paul, why don't you have all your towing trucks with track bars? I quite frankly don't think they need them. They're on the verge, but they don't need them. Why? Because my trucks are not leveled, they're raked, okay? So by the time, guys, just follow me, by the time this evens out, look at all this room, right? Let's say that it's a 2.5 inch rake. Well, 2.5 inch rake, that's 2.5 inches. These things are coming down, right? So these are my leaf springs. Once these things are coming down, they're putting so much more greater force on this. Okay? So this is going to stay under control, more or less under normal usage. It's typically the heavier and the extreme usage that you need these track bars. So that's my analogy why my trucks don't have them. And to give you a rundown of 3, first, second, third. First guy, the stock truck, right? Truck that doesn't tow. Guy that doesn't tow and a guy that doesn't modify his truck, meaning bigger tires technically doesn't exactly mean that you need a track bar. Bigger tires just put a bigger put a bigger strain on your axle turning right here. You're putting a bigger load here. So bigger tires are not 100% accurate, but typically what follows with bigger tires is a leveling kit. And you're going to run into the issue that I'm having where my truck sits leveled. Okay, now these leaf springs, when it's leveled, because you're going to throw airbags on there because you got to level it, is, well, not everyone throws airbags. You could throw blocks, but let's just say average case around here, people throw airbags on the rear. You're not letting these springs compress enough with the load. You're making up with their airbags because you're front, you know. You're not sitting at a rake. You're sitting at a straight. So that's what I'm talking about. Average stock guy, a little bit bigger tires, just understand what it follows up to. It's the, if you're equaling to leveling, that's when you need it. Okay, a guy that's towing. Okay, I'm not going to write this. A guy that's towing, does he need it? I would have to say what weight. Because as soon as you start towing, and you're putting heavy weight like me, you're going to need the bottom end of it to be stabilized too. You got the top because you got your leaf springs attached, the axle attached to your leaf springs. So this top end is really not what your problem is. It's your bottom end. You want to hold this thing from twisting. So all you're really doing with track bars is connecting it to the frame, connecting it to another solid point to solid point. Now this thing only goes up and down like this, the axle itself. It doesn't have the opportunity of churning on you left and right, you know, by clamping it like my setup here. It can't, you know, because you got a contact point here and a contact point here, meaning leaf springs running up top, and then you got the bar running on the bottom. So this thing's sandwiched. It has a direct contact or solid point here and a solid point here. So a guy that's towing, I would say as soon as you start crossing the 30,000 pound capacity, you should start looking into these track bars. But if you are leveled like myself, don't even waste your time. Go put some track bars on. Now, another guy that's lifts is a big one, guys. That's why you always see these guys with lifts running these ladder bars. They call them track bars. Whatever, call it whatever you want. It's that bar that holds the bottom end of the axle in place. Adds a, you know, second point of contact. I hope I've been transparent enough, but, you know, a guy that's lifted on his truck, that's, you know, it's a no-brainer, because lifts, they're bowed, and they're just, a lifted truck typically does not have load capacity, as a high of a load capacity, typically. The leaf spring's a lot softer, so guys will throw airbags on them. So if your truck's lifted, absolutely. I'm giving you a little rundown. Truck's lifted, absolutely. Truck's leveled, and you're starting to get into 30 plus gross weight, go getter. And the stock trucks, you know, if you're stock, you'll be fine until a certain weight. Then you'd want to add track bars. And once again, guys, I ended up getting the fairly long track bars. You don't have to go get the crazy ones. You can buy something simple. So, but the way I saw it, the longer the bar, the more leverage you have on it in a way, shape, or form. I mean, that's arguable, but there you have it, you know. So what I want to share with you guys, another little key thing, and it has nothing to do with what I just spoke about, but I figured I need to share this with you guys at some point. I don't think I have. Is something I've done on my truck, this truck in particular. If you own a 13 and a 14, you're going to run into this issue all the time. On average, this thing goes kaboom every 100,000, guys. See, that's what I have. Heavy duty clamps. Heavy duty clamps right here. And that's another heavy duty clamp. You know, it's spring loaded. It is solid. It ain't nothing cheesy like this. So anyways, I highly advise you guys to get it. It's a one-time fix and you forget it. You know, for a guy that's not planning on keeping his truck long term, I don't know if you want to do that. It doesn't look original, but it looks solid to me, and I like that. Anyways, boys, holy smokes, this is a long video. Anyways, God bless you all. I hope I helped you. That's the whole point of this video, is just sharing knowledge with you guys, and just one step at a time. If we could help out each other, and that's all we could do in life, right? May the Lord bless you, and have a mighty fine day. Bye.